significant is NASCAR's change here?
I never thought I'd see it in my lifetime. It's that significant. I think about when I first walked into the garage with the credential on, being paid by ESPN to cover a race. It was 25 years ago. And I went to the Darlington Raceway, and there was an old man sitting at a card table right at the entrance of the Winston Cup Series garage selling Confederate flags. And to go from what I saw that day to what I know that garage is now and what I know that sport is now, and then to finally make it official. And that's not a punt. It's not a let's trade flags and we'll give you this. This is a you do not bring it on the grounds. And I would be lying if I said I thought I would see that in my lifetime. And I'm proud. As a NASCAR fan, I'm proud because I know what that garage is. I know who those people are. I know what they stand for now versus what people believe that they stand for. And the reason they believe that was because of that flag. So now it won't be there after a fight, I'm sure, but it won't be there. And that's a monumental moment.
So obviously the flag, like one of the ways they hide the argument for the flag, or they hide the reason they have a flag out there is well, originally, yes, this is what the flag meant. But over the generations, that kind of meaning got lost. Of course, this was intentional, right? This was done intentionally by a group of people intent on not really losing the Civil War. But at any rate, that in fact did happen for some people. It did lose the original meaning, and they associate it instead with some kind of cultural pride or pride of region or something like that. What kind of internal discussions within NASCAR have happened when that defense was brought up?
It wasn't brought up in those meetings. And I think that's the difference in the NASCAR leadership now versus, quite frankly, just a couple of years ago. Certainly 10 years ago, 30 years ago, 50 years ago. It never took place. NASCAR President Steve Phelps, I talked to Steve Phelps on the phone last night during the Martinsville race about this. And they had a meeting, and it was put out on the table. This is what we're going to do. The announcement's going to go out. If anyone has a problem with this, they can leave now and find another job. And no one disagreed with it. And I think that's been the damage that's been done. It's the damage that was done when Kyle Larson said what he said on a live microphone, dropping the N-word during a video game just a couple of months ago. And you saw how quickly he has vanished from stock car racing. And so I know what the garage is. I know where Steve Phelps, the president of NASCAR's heart is. I know what he believes in. And I know what everyone in there. I used to work there. I was on the payroll at NASCAR 15 years ago for a brief time. I know who those people are, and they're not the people that would stand underneath that stars and bars. But the leadership that they worked under was not going to allow them to do what they've finally done on Wednesday.
Well,
Ryan, I just want to get in here quickly. Sorry, Domonique.
Go ahead.
When you talk about NASCAR, they're not those people. How about the fans? Because earlier I shared a Facebook post by Ray Cesarelli, a driver who has decided to now leave because NASCAR has banned the Confederate flag. So do you also see that sentiment when you're covering those events? I've been in sports for a very long time, but I've never had the opportunity of covering a NASCAR event.
All right, so there are essentially 40 teams in the Cup Series, the top level. There's essentially 35 teams in the Xfinity Series, which is like AAA baseball. That guy who says he's going to quit is a team owner in the Truck Series, which is basically AA baseball. See you later. I've got one guy out of roughly more than 100 team owners who made that declaration on Facebook. I'll see you later. And I think that's what the numbers are. Listen, there will be 5,000 fans in the stands at the Talladega Superspeedway in a week. There's going to be 44 RVs there. The first time fans have been back in the stands. A very small group, very spread out. There's no doubt about someone is going to show up who's going to try to sneak a flag into the thing. NASCAR knows, listen, what do rebels do? They rebel, right? The last thing that someone who flies a Confederate flag wants to do is be told what to do. And so they're going to be protests, guys are going to show up, but NASCAR is ready to fight that. And so that's the difference, is they're willing to leg that out. If that guy wants to quit because of a Confederate flag and he said it wasn't, it's totally what it was. Listen, the greatest invention of all time on Twitter is mute this conversation. So when I posted my column last night, I immediately hit mute this conversation because I don't want to hear it, because they're the loudest people. And I don't have to hear from them because I know the reason they're reacting the way they're reacting is they realize their extinction is due, and they realize they're outnumbered. and they're outnumbered at the racetrack. And that small group of loud rednecks who believed that the racetrack was a safe place for them, it wasn't. And now officially it's not. And you start flushing the roaches out of the dark rooms, man, they get scared. And so I don't care if that guy quits. I don't care what anybody says to me on my Twitter timeline. Steve Phelps, the president of NASCAR, doesn't care about the death threats that he's receiving. At the end of the day, you're either on the right side of history or you're on the wrong side. And it took NASCAR too long to get here, but they're here.
I'm glad you brought up your piece. Like it was, I read it this morning. It was emotional. So this means something more to you. Do you care to share anything from that piece with the people watching now?
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, especially coming from you. And listen, anybody wants to come at me with the old heritage, not hate argument when it comes to the stars and bars. You don't come at me about heritage, about this flag. You don't come at me about what this flag means. You're talking to a direct descendant of the slave owners. I'm sitting on the coast of North Carolina right now. Not 30 minutes up the road is Fort Fisher, which was the last line of defense for the Port of Wilmington. In 1865, my relatives, great-great-great uncle and grandfather, lost to the Union forces trying to defend Wilmington, were put on a ship taken to upstate New York. When the war ended, they walked on foot 600 miles from Elmira, New York, to Rockingham, North Carolina. You don't have to tell me about what that flag means. I know what it means, and I know they were on the wrong side of history. If they were alive today, I hope in my heart that they would know they were on the wrong side of history. So we're on the right side. My DNA is what it is. No one can come at me with any, you don't know my background. Yeah, I know your background. It's my background, and I don't want to hear it.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.